recording the session. Now, hopefully the recording works okay, but we have tried this in the past and sometimes the recording hasn't gone perfectly. The sound's been a little bit off. So I'm hoping this works. If it's not a good recording, we will record it in some other way and get the information out to you all. Now, throughout the session, I will pause and give you opportunities to come off mute. You're all on mute at the moment, and ask some questions. Feel free to do that. But if you're anything like me and you can't remember the question by the time the pause comes up, please put it in the chat and we'll answer all the questions that come through in the chat at the time when we pause, and then make sure that we've covered everything at the end. Okay. So let's talk about mentoring and what mentoring is. Now, I'm fairly certain a lot of you probably have some experience of mentoring in the past. There is a hands up button at the bottom. Just at the bottom of the screen, looks like a wee person raising their hands. Raise your hand for me if you have actually been mentored or had a mentor at some point in the past, or been a mentor yourself, if you've actually done mentoring and you've been the mentor. Okay, quite a few of you, that's great. Okay, so yeah, quite a number of you have already done mentoring, and that's fabulous. Because you have some fabulous experience of the scheme, and being a mentor is something that is very rewarding, and it's the reason why a lot of the mentors have actually volunteered. To share with you my experience, I've been mentored twice in my career. And I'll share bits of that experience with you throughout the presentation. But I've also been a mentor for the past 4 years, and I've had a fabulous experience and gained a lot actually out of mentoring other people. And I'm going to again share a little bit about that. But what we have here is a specific type of mentoring, and it's career mentoring. The aim of the scheme is to help you with the transition out of university into what we hope is your future professional career, but help you with the steps to go towards that. Now, I'm going to turn my camera off a little bit because I'm sure you're bored of seeing my wallpaper, and at some point later on I'll switch it back on. So now I'm just going to keep with the slides, and we'll start from here. So what I think is really important for us to outline at first is that we need to think about what the session is going to cover. Now, one of the key things I want to cover for you today is what the role of this mentor, your mentor in this scheme is, so that you can understand what the limitations are of your you can ask them for help, but also so that you can see the depth of things that you can actually get them to support you with. We're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for your first mentor meeting, because I know that can actually be a bit of a challenge. Meeting a stranger, someone you don't know for the first time, is actually quite a nerve-wracking thing to do. So we're going to talk about how to prepare for that meeting. We're going to look at what questions to ask the mentor in the initial meeting, and that'll be backed up with some more information that we send you out later. I can't pretend that it's not going to be scary and nerve-wracking to meet them for the first time, particularly on the phone. Maybe not so much online, but online can be a bit nerve-wracking as well. But on the phone, we have found, my experience has shown me that people actually become more nervous making a phone call, and it's easier to put off than maybe if you actually are emailing someone. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and actually what to do if you don't get on with your mentor. What if things don't go right, and what if things are not working properly? So that's the outline of the session today. Anybody get any questions at this point they want to ask? I'm just going to pause. You can take yourself off mute, or you can type a question. No, that's just in case there was something that I should have covered and you're asking me, you're thinking, oh, I wish you had said that. So what is a mentor role? Here are some words that we automatically use when we think of the word mentor. Ultimately, this is a volunteer. The people who are working in this mentoring scheme as mentors are all GCU alumni. The people who are going to work with you have all been to GCU, and they have a shared experience, and they always have a very positive experience, and they've kept in touch. They're all volunteers, and the one thing they have said they want to do is they want to help you in particular. But also what we have is that they want to share with you their insight and their wisdom into their career area and industry that they work in, but also into the things that they found challenging in the career area. But I think what is really important to remember is that it's also an exchange. A lot of mentors in career mentoring scheme will actually say that they learn a great deal from the people who they mentor, and that's where this exchange comes across. Some of the people who have volunteered actually have been out in their job for quite some time, and they find that they learn quite a lot about what it is to be a graduate. And actually at the moment, what it is to be a graduate is very unique. So they will actually get a lot from you of understanding what their future workforce is going to be like and what they're looking for. They will share with you knowledge, they're there to offer support, and they're also there to challenge you. Not everything that you say or do is going to be something that they say brilliant. Sometimes they'll say, okay, have you thought about, or they'll challenge you in a nice way. It's not like they're going to set up arguments or anything like that. So they are going to challenge you. They're there to link you to people, other people who might help you if they can do that. They're there to steer you in the right direction, whether it's towards a resource or an area where they think that you would be suitable, or to steer you in a direction towards where is the best place to find jobs in their industry sector. They will share with you their experience, and that's the biggest part of career mentoring that I want you to learn from their experience, because one of the key things people who have mentors tell us is that the experience and information that's gained from having a mentor makes them on paper look better, because they can talk more confidently about a career area, but also in interview they know what that job is or what that industry is all about, not just from reading it, but actually understanding from someone who's in there. It's usually a fabulous relationship where you actually over time become friends, and at some point in the future might actually continue to be mentored by this person or continue some kind of conversation. And this mentoring, we hope, will allow you to access networks outside the university, as well as the ones that you obviously have within the university. So if you look at, this is the CIPD's definition of a mentor. What a mentor is, a definition of a mentor is the act or process of helping and giving advice to younger or less experienced person, especially in a job or at school. Now, the younger or less experienced is quite interesting. Not all of our mentors are going to be younger than you. Some of our mentors are actually just a couple of years out in their career, but actually feel they've got enough experience, enough good experience that they can share with you to help you. But often they will be older, but not necessarily. Just in case you get matched up and you look at a picture and you think, my goodness, I'm old enough to be their parent in some way, shape or form. It is actually about their experience that we've matched you. Okay, so what a mentor is not. Now, a lot of people overlap with this a little bit, but a mentor is not your personal tutor. They're not there to check essays. They're not there to be able to give you help with academic matters necessarily, but it might be that your mentor is actually a member of GCU staff, because we have a lot of mentors who are actually staff within the university. They're not a counsellor, so they're not there to give you advice in that way. They're not a careers advisor. I'm a careers advisor. I've qualified to do that job, but they are not necessarily careers advisors. They're not trained, and by that I mean we've given them a training session on mentoring, but they're not trained in the way that a counsellor or a careers advisor or a personal tutor is. You have to remember they're not always available. It might be that they're working, and you have to sometimes work around their schedule, which can be very busy. It's also possible you'll be matched with someone who's not in this country. We do have mentors who are all over the world, so they're not always available, and you have to negotiate your time with their time with you very carefully. But equally, they not be never available. If it comes to a point where you can't get in touch with your mentor, or they're missing meetings and it's hard to get rearranged, then you need to come back to us and speak to us, because that's not the agreement we have. They're not a member of GCU staff necessarily, but again, some of them will be. But in the capacity of being your mentor, they're not behaving like a member of staff. Okay, they're behaving not as a tutor or a lecturer or a careers advisor, as a mentor. They're there for you for whatever it is you need mentored in. And don't assume, whether they're young or old, that they're necessarily tech savvy. Some of our mentors might not be able to kind of work around Microsoft Teams or Zoom or things like that because they've not used them, but equally they might be very tech savvy. They're not always right. It's important to think of that. You know you better than anyone else. They're not always right in the advice that they give. Their perspective is their perspective, and you might disagree with that, and that's absolutely fine, and you can both absolutely manage that option very well. And they're not your only source of help. So, for example, anything else related to careers that you're looking for help on, the career service is here for you. If you are graduating or just about to graduate, we offer a support service for 2 years after you graduate, so you can still use our service if you need help specifically careers, whether that's exploring your options of what you want to do, or it's more specific and you want application forms, CVs checked, or things like interview practice. Okay, so let's kind of take a wee pause there actually. Anyone get any questions? Don't see anything in chat at the moment. So for those of you who put your hand up who said you had been mentored, can you tell me, do you recognise the description? Come off mute and tell us.
Katrina, just while you were saying that there, somebody's written a question in chat asking, will our mentor be a graduate from our course?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ideally, yes, if that's what you've said is the most important thing. So our ideal match is someone who matches your career area. If you specifically said that's the career area I'm interested in, or is in the industry sector that you're interested in, and the third area had done the same course that you had done. So those are 3 areas that we've tried to kind of match you around. They might not necessarily have done the exact same course, because obviously the courses change over time, but that's one of the criteria we matched you against, that did the same course, if the area is something that you haven't been quite specific about. You'll get to know that. Okay, you're welcome. So again, anybody else want to, we'll have another chance to pause later on. So first things first, about contacting your mentor, I would say the important thing about building this relationship is not about the first contact, it's about the preparation you do before the first contact. And it's like anything, you wouldn't prepare for an exam, or you would not prepare for an exam, you wouldn't not do your research before writing an essay. It's the same thing. We want you to think about preparing. Now, most of our mentors are actually on LinkedIn, and they're on the alumni, GCU alumni LinkedIn group. So if you wanted to have a look at it for them, do a search on LinkedIn. You'll get to know their name very soon. I'll talk about that in a second. Also, what I would suggest you do is do a bit of research beyond that online. Is there something that they have actually been in the press over? Think about, and a good thing, we wouldn't match with someone who's been in the press for bad things, but have a look online and see what you can find out about them. Research where they work. Is it a big company? Is it a small company? And that might give you some good information as to the kind of other areas that you can expect to interact with in that professional area. Think about when you're free, and I have to say that that's a big challenge sometimes, is actually you might not be free always at the same time, and that's absolutely fine, but you have to think about when you'll be free, when you're making that initial contact, which might be a quick call or a quick email, to then establish a time where you can have a longer chat. So when will you be free? Have that ready and think about that beforehand. Think about how you want to meet for your first meeting and for the meetings ahead. Plan that. Would you prefer to be online and being able to see the person, or is it okay to do this over the telephone? And have a plan about what you want to say and what you want to ask. And I'm going to cover that in a little bit more detail in a second. I would say rehearse your opening if you're calling, and rehearse it out loud. So for example, having it ready, so you say, hello, my name's Katrina, I'm your mentee. We've been matched in the GCU career mentoring scheme. I'm just checking, are you okay to talk right now and we can arrange our first meeting? So think about that. I thought about that before I put this presentation together. I thought, right, what would I say? So think about what you're going to say and rehearse it out loud so that you're a little bit, you're fluent and you're a little bit more confident than you would be if it was just tripping off your tongue there and then. If your first contact is going to be an email, then what I would say is actually get that read by someone else. I had the most embarrassing email that I sent yesterday, and I was talking about hanging out with someone, and I said, it's great to hang out with my son, and I didn't write hang, I wrote hand, and it made no sense. It's great to hand out with my son. I mean, people must have been wondering, what the hell is she talking about? So read through it. Even if you think it's perfect, someone else reading it might be able to tell you that it's not. Now, the answer machine, now that this is actually when you've practiced and rehearsed calling someone and it's an answering machine, what you want to say is totally different. So again, have a think about that. What would I say as an answer machine? You want to have to give them information about who you are, but you also want to say how to contact you back, or are you going to call them back? So think about that and rehearse it. Is there a possibility that you're going to get someone's answer machine, then rehearse that? It's the one thing that flummoxes people. And I have to say, it's quite funny. I've worked in call centres across the years, and people who work in call centres always say, oh, it's an answering machine, I hate the answering machine, because they get flustered about what to say, because they've prepared themselves for talking to a person but not for talking to a machine. So please think about that beforehand as well. Now, the interesting part of all of this is that it's a kind of funny relationship, that your mentor will know your name and you will know your mentor's name. And after this session, you will receive an email, and it'll be next week at some point, because there's loads of people that we need to email out. You will get an introductory email, which is actually introduce you to each other, and you'll both be CC'd into that. And I would say the first thing to do is follow that up with an email of your own. Explain who you are and why you're contacting them. Now, they definitely should know your name, and a lot of you in the application did fill out the biography and gave us permission to share that with your mentor, and that should have gone to them. But it may be that you didn't do that, and then you have obviously to explain yourself a little bit more. It's possible that they didn't get the biography or they haven't read it. So I would still introduce yourself and explain who you are. Tell them when you're free. Again, the preparation for that. Tell them your free time. Have that time actually blocked out as well. I often get frustrated when someone says to me, okay, I'm free at 12 next Thursday or 3 o'clock, and then you go, okay, right, 12 next Thursday, oh, sorry, that's gone. Right, okay, what about, and you kind of go backwards and forwards. So please think about when you're free, block that time off. And in that email, indicate how you would prefer to meet. It's not necessarily going to be that they'll say, yes, that's fine, but do indicate, would you prefer telephone or online? And though those are the two options we're offering at the moment, but obviously we have face-to-face as a future option as well. At the moment, though, we're saying probably start with telephone online, and as social distancing rules become relaxed and there are more places that you can meet, then that would be different. And also be honest about the above. Genuinely, if you're not a telephone person and you prefer online, or just be prepared to say that, and that's fine. Okay, so again, your first contact might be a call. They might say to you, okay, just call me. Be somewhere quiet with no interruptions is easier said than done these days, I have to say, because we're all together all the time. Some people have told me what they've done is actually just go out for a walk and sit on a park bench somewhere and have a chat. Initially making that initial call. Have some notes in front of you from that initial preparation, because your mind sometimes just goes blank when you're chatting or you're meeting with someone, particularly if you feel a wee bit nervous about it. So have your preparation ready and keep your notes in front, and then equally have something to take notes on so that you can then jot down, okay, next Thursday's fine, okay, telephone's okay, here is the number to catch this person on, the best one. Now, I came across this as a really interesting article on Mind Tools about using the phone, because it's interesting that people have stopped using the phone, and people have actually become emailers or texters or face-to-face onliners, and this is before the pandemic even happens, but we've lost the skill of using the telephone, a lot of us, and this is a really good article that if you want to just have a quick read through, it's not a long read, to kind of think about the art of using the phone, which I think is useful. So have a look at that one. Now, what you're going to say, what questions you're going to ask with this initial conversation. Now, this is from experience that we know that breaking the ice initially is the most nerve-wracking part, and once you get over that initial hurdle, everything becomes easier. So the first thing I would say to you is think about what you have in common. What you have in common is that you both went to GCU, and in some cases, in many cases, you will have done almost exactly the same course. So, that's the initial icebreaker. Maybe if you want to just tell them why you've joined the programme, what you're hoping to get out of, what goals you have. Also, it might be something, bits of information that they don't know about you, information that is actually a little bit extra on top of what you put in your biography. You could share your CV. I'm a little bit sometimes reluctant to say you should, but you could share your CV. Remember, your CV has your name and your address and contact details on it, and this is a complete stranger to you. If you don't feel it's right to do that, then don't. Or if you want them to share your CV, maybe your LinkedIn profile, if you have that, is an easier thing to share. Once you become more comfortable and confident, then obviously you can share more information with your mentor. But this is a completion to you, so be wary of that sometimes. Also think about the time commitments, general rules of behaviour. Now, we are going to send you out after this session. We're going to send you out a few things. One is the recording of the session. The second is a handbook, which will outline the sessions that you can have. It's got lots more information about the questions you ask. Actually writes down some suggested questions across the different interactions that you have with your mentor, but we will also send you out a mentoring agreement form. Now, the mentoring agreement, you might look at it and think, what do I need that for? But actually what it does is it puts down on paper key information that your mentor and you can agree in advance about how much time you're going to commit to each other, how you're going to behave towards each other, what happens if you don't get on or you disagree? And particularly one of the main issues we have with any mentoring scheme is that someone, either the mentor or the mentee, feels that they have enough time to commit, but then actually doesn't make it a priority, and the relationship breaks down because people are not actually getting in touch with each other. So if we've written down and we've said, for example, we're suggesting a minimum of 1 hour a month for 6 months is the minimum time commitment that you and your mentor make to each other. If you want more and they're agreed with more, then they will give you more, but you need to write that down. So there's lots of information in there, and also to do with confidentiality. Your mentor might share some really insightful internal information about either their organisation or the industry they work in. That doesn't mean they necessarily want you to share that with other people. So you need to have between you some kind of understanding of what is confidential and what isn't. And again, you can use the mentoring agreement to actually talk about that. So, say for example, you've been mentored by someone who's a solicitor. If you want to talk to them about cases they have been involved in or are involved in, you might be quite specific about you not sharing that information. So, also think about what you want from your mentor. Every one of you here, I guarantee, will have a slightly different expectation, and it might be that some of you want someone to just chat things through. Some of you will want something quite specific. You want to know how to become some of you might want something that is more general. You might want to explore an industry sector. Set out what your expectations are and also your goals. Think about that in advance. What are your goals? And it's one thing your mentor will work with you probably in the first meeting to ask about, right, what do you want to achieve by the end of mentoring? And actually that's a big thing. You need to think about that. What do you want to achieve by the end of mentoring is a big question. Okay, again, I'm going to take a pause there. And I'm going to ask you in the chat or come off the mic and come off mute and have a chat. Tell me, what are your goals? What are you hoping to achieve by the end of mentoring?
So there's one comment there, Katrina. Dara has said to have a better understanding of the industry they work in.
Great, that's perfect. That's one thing I would hope you would get from that. And also what they would be able to do is share with you insider information that you don't find in the magazines or the newspapers or the glossy websites that they all have. So yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. There's another similar one just come
in. And you're in.
Yeah.
Right, okay, absolutely. And again, that's what we want you, but you need to define what progress means to you. That's the thing. I want you all to think about that at the end of this 6 months. What changes do you want to see in yourself or in the position you find yourself in? So any more, please pop some things in, because what I want you all to see is that you all perhaps have slightly different goals or slightly different aims from mentoring. Anybody want to person come off mute and just chat? I'll see if you come off mute.
There's another one in, Katrina, from Michael, saying guidance or help towards employment within the sector I studied for, as I'm finding this difficult just now.
No. Okay, and again, that's one of the major reasons why we put this mentoring scheme together. This mentoring scheme was actually initially meant to be a small project, just working within a particular programme in one of the schools. But the minute we found out that everything was happening with the pandemic, and the fact that we knew a lot of you, excuse me, would have had work experience cancelled, or graduate positions perhaps paused. We thought, right, this to help people get closer towards employment, we need to put something together, and this is something that I think you will find actually will really take the place of work experience for a lot of you, because the information that you gain from your mentor should make you a better candidate in the sector that you've chosen to work in. It is difficult right now, and what I would say is what we've found, and this is me talking as a careers advisor, not person in charge of the mentoring scheme, we found that a lot of graduates have disengaged. We have probably as many jobs on our vacancy system at GCU as at this time this year as we did last year. We look different, but we do have as many jobs, and we're finding that less and less people are actually interacting with the job boards and with us because they're quite despondent. And I would say don't be despondent, and hopefully your mentor will be able to say to you, okay, it's slow just now, here is when we expect it to pick up, or actually no, we're still recruiting, we're finding it difficult. So that guidance is core to what we're hoping you get out of this. And I think again, networking with potential employers, Lauren, is a fabulous way. Your mentor can help you. Not everyone will share their network with you initially. That's the other thing. They might need to get to know you a little bit better before they willingly open their network to you. But one thing that's really interesting to do is when you go on their LinkedIn profile, and I would really encourage you to do that if they have one, most of them do, is see who they're connected to. That's a good starting point. But it's not straight away say, right, can you introduce me to? You will begin to get that relationship evolve as you go through time. Okay, sometimes they're a wee bit protective of their network initially, but then they open up once they get to know you and get to understand that this is a really good thing to share with you. Okay, thank you for sharing that, people. Next, that clicked on twice. I can't pretend to you I was not nervous every time I went to meet my mentor. My first mentor was someone who was very senior in the university that I worked in. She was the head of IT and the library. I had never met her before. She was one of these amazing women, and I had just joined the university not long. It wasn't GCU, it was another university. And before meeting her, I was really, really quite intimidated, I'll be honest. But what I did do was I had a session like this, which is why I know it works. It made a difference to me, and I did prepare. I went with my notepad. In those days we had face-to-face meetings. Remember those days, guys, when we had face meetings? And I sat down in a coffee shop with her on the university, and I read through my list of questions, and she was wonderful, and she was lovely, and she really helped me. So, ways to overcome your nerves. I love the research that Amy Cuddy has done. Amy Cuddy, you've maybe seen through TED Talks that she's quite famous for her power pose research. And I would say absolutely use this. It's proven to work. Amy has proven over and again that if you have confident body language, that confidence actually comes across in your voice, and actually you internally feel more confident. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure many of you do, Amy Cuddy talks about the power pose, which is like a superhero pose where you stand with your feet slightly apart and you put your hands on your hips. I'm doing it right now, just in case you can't see me, but I'm doing it right now. And you stand like that for 5-10 minutes. And actually what they've discovered is that does internally change the way you feel and makes you feel more confident, because what you do find is a lot of confident people do stand like that. It's kind of like the Wonder Woman bat pose, but try it. If you want to do that just before you speak to someone, take 5-10 minutes to actually do that. If you're really nervous, and I know there's a lot of us out there who are just worriers, Before the meeting, you might want to try a guided meditation. I've given you a link there that's about gathering your energy before doing something. It's about kind of centering you, and it's getting you right into that place that's a good energy and good place to go. If you're phoning, a tip from me is to try standing on the phone. Not standing on the phone, standing while you're on the phone, because actually your voice sounds completely different when you're standing. I'm sitting down right now and my voice, I can hear it, it's a little bit deeper than it normally would be. When I'm standing, my voice is higher, and it's because my lungs are more compressed when I sit down than they are when I stand up. Standing mostly makes people sound a little bit more confident. So either on the phone, or even if you're on your device and you're doing this online, try standing. It can make a bit of a difference. And even if it's on the phone, I would say dress for the conversation. And the reason I say dress for the conversation is that I think it is really important for you to feel good. So even though I am at home and I am talking to you from my dining room, I actually dress, and I do this every day actually, I dress like I'm going to work. On the top, I've got my jeans on, but I dress like I'm going to work because it's for me, it's about having that, okay, this is work me. And then when I go away from here, I'm not work me anymore. So try dressing for the conversation in a way that you feel comfortable. And it might be that being in your jammies is how you feel comfortable. That's absolutely fine if it's on the phone, but dress for the conversation in a way that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Okay, please remember to listen to the answers the mentor gives you and take notes during that initial conversation. Don't rely on your memory, because our memory's spot on in the moment, but it doesn't last forever. Remember to the questions they ask, listen to the questions they ask and answer them honestly, but also be willing to share some information, but not so much that you feel comfortable. And listen to yourself. What am I sounding like in this conversation? Have I talked too much? Am I not talking enough? Have I got confident words? Am I actually coming across really well? Pause for a minute, reflect on that, and then rejoin the conversation. But certainly listen to yourself. Think, okay, how could I improve on this for next time? You're not going to be able to do it in the conversation, but listen is a really key, important part of being mentored. You should be doing a lot of talking and a lot of listening. Okay, so think about the endings of every conversation you have with your mentor. Every conversation then leads to the next conversation. So I think from the first meeting, try if you can to complete the mentor agreement so that you both understand the framework around this relationship that you're going to have across this scheme. If there have been things that you've discussed that are actions, for you mostly, but sometimes it will be for your mentor, you need to agree what those actions are, maybe summarise at the end, and think about how you will record these. Now, I am going to send you all out a handbook that we've put together for this scheme, and there are sections in there that you can actually note actions of your meeting. But that might not be how you choose to record these. It might be that you choose to record these on an email or something where you both have a record of them. You need to agree the time and date for your next meeting. So have your diary ready, have some dates ready as well for the future, because some of these people are really busy, and if you don't get in their diaries early enough, you're going to miss out. So please agree the date and time for your next meeting at the end of the meeting you have. And again, agree how you'll conduct the next meeting. It might be that you grow in confidence and you want to use different technologies. It might be that at some point lockdown is lifted and you want to actually meet face to face. Now, one thing I will say about meeting face to face is always be safe, and the same with being online, always be safe. Don't share any information that you're uncomfortable sharing, but also if you're going to meet face to face, make sure initially, especially, it's somewhere public. There should perhaps be a coffee shop involved. A lot of mentoring has happened on campus. People meet in cafes on campus. It might be that you go to the person's place of work, but never if that person's place of work is their home, and also never if you just don't feel comfortable. Then that's it. It's just a no. But you have the option of keeping this online and keeping this on the telephone. But think about that. You might chop and change how the next meeting will be conducted, and that really depends on your level of comfort, but also what's available to you at certain times. It might be one of your meetings would be in a lunch break while you're doing another job, and then you might say, right, that has to be a telephone call, whereas other meetings you're at home, you can have that online. Okay, so after this session, we are going to send you a copy of the presentation. Hopefully the recording worked, and you will get the handbook, which is quite a substantial handbook. We've made it deliberately very detailed so that you can work your way through it through the 6 months of the scheme. Your mentoring relationship might be shorter than 6 months, but we're giving people up to 6 months. We will also send you the mentor agreement contract. I want you to read through that and certainly try to use it. Use the handbook and use the agreement in your first meeting. There shouldn't be any problem with the mentor. Anyone who has been a mentor knows that the agreement is part and parcel of usually your first meeting. Sometimes you make that formal, as in this contract. Sometimes it's less formal. The less formal ones, in my experience, are the ones that tend to have breakdowns and issues with it. And then you will receive an email. If you haven't already, you will receive an email in a few days with the name of your mentor and their contact details. And what will probably happen is they'll be CC'd in. There'll be an introduction made between the two of you. So the alumni team are poised and ready to introduce you to your mentor. So that's what will happen if after this session you'll receive 2 emails. The first from us with some information, and the second from the alumni team. Now, you might have some trouble getting in touch with your mentor, and what I want you to do is get back in touch with us if that is the case, and then we can facilitate a meeting. And it might be that your mentor's not able to mentor anymore and just wasn't able to contact us, but hopefully that shouldn't happen. It might be that if you don't get on with your mentor, you try a couple of meetings and you think, oh no, we're just not gelling, it's not working. Then get in touch with us as well. It may be we could reassign you to a different mentor. It may be that we could facilitate something and change the conversation. There's many things that we can do, but please let us know if that's the case. You might find that you don't have time for mentoring. You might get your dream job and you don't need us anymore, but please let us know if that's the case, and please let your mentor know if that's the case, because what we want to know is we want to hear your success stories, but equally if there's been an issue or a problem, we want to know that for the next running of the mentoring programme so that we can adjust it in any way that you tell us needs to be adjusted. Any problems, what I would say is check the handbook first for information, and or revisit your mentoring contract. But also, we're here for you. Some of you have emailed us already with questions. We're here for you at that email address, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Obviously, we're not available at weekends, but during the week, we will get back to you as quickly as possible. Okay, again, I'm going to pause there. That's me kind of at the end of my slides, so I will come back on camera. You get to see my lovely face again. Anyone get any questions? Anything you want to put on chat? Anything you want to unmute yourself and ask anything, or a comment? Anything? Give people time to. Okay, well, thank you for that, Amelia. I'm glad it's been helpful. Anyone got any questions you want to just throw in right now? Now, you've seen my face, you know who I am. Me and Angela, and we also have a colleague, Gail, who's taken part and helping out in this scheme. We're here to help you. So if you feel at any point that you think, oh God, I just don't know what to do in this situation, get in touch with us, email us, or email us directly. But the career mentoring box, there's always going to be one of us available for that. And we will get back to you. We can have a chat with you. And we will sort the problems out. We will work with you, work with your mentor to sort any of the problems out. Most of you will not have any problems, most of you. But sometimes it's like, oh my God, what am I going to say? This captain of industry is my mentor. And she is someone I just don't know what to do, how to speak to. That's fine. We can help you with that and help you just rehearse some of it if need be. But most of you, I'm sure, can do all of this yourself. Okay. Now it just remains for me to say thank you so much for turning up. Thank you for your attention today. Ideally, we would have done this where we're all sitting in a room together and I'd be handing things out and get you to fill things in, but we're not able to do that. So I'm hoping this actually has covered everything you needed it to. So thank you, and thank you to Angela very much for your support. And we will we'll be in touch very soon with all the information. Okay, you're all welcome. Thank you. Bye bye.